So the day has finally come. It's been a long journey, but behind me is a 1957 Westerner vintage trailer. The story unfolds almost 8 years ago. So I work on a farm and I was driving out to a field one day by this old spud cellar. And I looked back in there in the darkness and there it was, this old trailer. And I thought, man, that could be something cool. So I talked to the guy that owned it and he said, yeah, I'd get rid of it. And so I ended up trading some labor to get the trailer. I had to take a backhoe to pull it out of there because the building was flooding. Once I got it out of there and opened the door, I thought, oh my gosh, this thing is rat hotel big time. They had literally taken over the thing. It was so smelly. They had urinated on everything and chewed up the upholstery, and they were just running wild in there. So I put a hazmat suit on, a Tyvek suit on, and pulled everything out of there and threw it in a pile and burned it later, and then brought the thing home, and it was parked alongside the garage for years. I gutted it all out and saved some of the pieces for kind of a model to build the new cabinets and stuff in the future, but I just didn't have time. It just, you know how life is, it just things go on and on. You think, oh, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, and you never get to it. Well, one time I got a month free and I thought this is it or it's never going to happen. So I set aside 4 weeks, it was last February, pulled it into the shop, farm shop, and started going crazy and building this thing, and it was an awesome experience. I just loved bringing the thing back to life. It reminds me of this Disney cartoon where this young teenager brings a car back to life they found in a junkyard. It really does seem like the things are alive after you spend all that time bringing it back. So with just a short amount of time, I couldn't do everything to it because a full restoration would require all of this aluminum to come off and be replaced by new stuff. Obviously there's some dents in here, but it didn't really bother me because I felt it was vintage anyway, and I got to devote more time on the inside. And again, only having a short amount of time. So this was all gutted completely to the frame, where I rebuilt some of the frame, repacked the wheel bearings, got new wheel bearings, that kind of thing. Put new flooring in, new cabinets, refinished the appliances. But again, as the pictures show, they were quite trash. They were different colors. The rats had gotten into them. It took quite a bit of restoration to get those cleaned up. I kept the siding. I restored some of the labeling, just cleaned it up and that. The windows were broken. I replaced the glass, and some of the screen I still have yet to do. Put a new skylight vent up there. And this is where my wife Diane comes into. She's the one that actually put together the theme. Since it is a Westerner, which were trailers built in California during the popularity of the TV shows, they thought, wouldn't it be great if we put together a travel trailer for people who could just get into that theme? Those who loved, you know, The Rifleman or some of those shows, they thought they'll love to go camping in a trailer that is popular at the time and is based on kind of shows that they love to watch. I thought that was an interesting integration between something people really love and something they might love to go camping in, and just to have that whole theme going on. And that's why it's called the Westerner, actually. And there are several out there that people have restored. We decided to go with a black and white scheme because a lot are various colors, like more of maybe brown or more of that Western brown, but it was all made to match the 1978 Jeep CJ5 that we're going to pull it with. That's why we chose these colors. What I did inside is I went ahead and replace the water tank, which holds the water, the fresh water. I also put a gray tank in there in case we're camped at a park and we don't want to let the water out on the ground. And then I put a DC-AC converter in it so we can run the pump. I also have a battery to run some of the stuff on there. But we kept the original ice box, which just uses blocks of ice to keep products cold. A lot of people have added refrigerators or microwaves or those kind of things, but we kind of thought, well, we'll just keep it more original because we probably won't spend more than a few days at a time in it. We would really love to go to some of those vintage campouts that people put together where they all get vintage trailers and they go to a big park and they hang out. We have still yet to do the awning that comes out. Those are the original hooks that brings out the awning. We're gonna try something maybe a little different with that. Went ahead and put some power on the outside for like lighting or whatever we could use, and then insulated it with the foam insulation instead of the fiberglass. Originally had the fiberglass, but personally I don't like work with fiberglass, so I used some of that building insulation, the foam. It was an inch thick. There's not much framing obviously, but I gotta tell you, this thing sat out and it's very windy up here. It was completely gutted, just the outside and the frame, and it withstood 50-mile-an-hour gusts. One day I went out there and it had completely turned in a circle because the wind had taken it, but I never tipped it over. I thought, crazy how little products are in this as far as framing and those kind of things, but yet how sturdy they really are. So if you're gonna rebuild one, feel confident that it's a really good project that's gonna last you a long, long time, virtually forever, as long as you keep putting stuff into it. I gotta tell you, it feels really great to sit in this thing after all that work. Anybody that's involved in restoration, you get to that final day when you can look at all your hard work and go, wow, this is awesome. I'm so glad. You know, we live in a special time when it's so easy to find out about DIY projects. With YouTube and all the other accessibility out there, we can find almost anything out if we don't know ourselves. When I was younger, I had took wood shop for like 5 years. That gave me a lot of the skills it took to put this trailer together. I used something that I had learned years and years ago. But now, if you hadn't had that experience, you can get on the internet and find someone who will help you. There's so many people that's willing to share their knowledge and experience with you, which is fantastic if you want to get involved in one of these projects. Don't be afraid. A lot of people think, I don't know, I can't do that, I couldn't do that. Just take it step by step. You don't have to start with a full restoration of a vintage trailer or 78 Jeep or whatever. Start with a smaller project, like maybe a small furniture project or an appliance project or whatever it is. Start small and through the years build up, and you'll find yourself doing bigger and bigger projects as your knowledge and experience grows. There's no greater feeling than to put something together that turns out, and especially if you're happy with it and you think, wow, that just is an amazing feeling. Living a minimalistic life today is very popular. And if you like that type of lifestyle, these are perfect little units to live that way. It's so simple. Easy to clean. If you want to pick up and move, you just hook it up and pull it somewhere. Nowadays they're a little more expensive to pick up, but don't let that deter you. Look around. You can eventually find one that somebody probably doesn't want a lot of money for. I basically, through a work trade, basically paid around $500 for this one, which I thought was too much at the time. But now when you look at the value of these vintage trailers, like a lot of vintage things, they just keep going up in value. So it's a good investment as well. So think about it that way. It's restoration, and if you love that thing, as well as a good investment if you want to restore it, to bring it back to life, and then get a return on your investment. It's just a win-win situation. So that wraps up the video about the restoration process, all the framing, all the construction that went into restoring the 57 Westerner. On our next video, we'll take you through a tour of the trailer and how it became the final version of what it is. My wife and I putting it together and the theme that we went with and all the things that went in the interior as well. So until next time, thanks so much for watching.